Hello everyone, as we now move into game number 3 in this series. Yumiko spawning on the bottom right hand side of the map as the orange human player, speeding things up just a little bit. Meanwhile, Fanta Fiction spawning as the red Undead on the top left hand side of the map. Game number 1 and game number 2 couldn't have been more different, but we really didn't get to see Fanta Fiction get up to speed. Him opening up with double crypt, double ghouls in order to pressure the human expansion would have worked, except for the fact that the Mountain King had gone for Thunderclap, and we saw how effective that early Thunderclap could be. Now, what are we going to see here as Yumiko is using that water elemental to get an early start on creeping? It looks like the Death Knight is actually going to instead just start creeping himself, grabbing some skeletal minions. And where exactly is he going? He grabs skeletal minions but hasn't really done anything with them yet. Just a little bit confused by all of this. Death Knight looking to go after this 5-4-4 creep camp, going after the troll berserkers. As you can see that the footman is perhaps going to just get some extra damage onto these units. All right, little bit of a lucky break by Yumiko. Yumiko figures this all out with that early footman and is now making his opponent punishing his opponent for not trying to put pressure on himself. Yumiko now with a big advantage after pushing that Death Knight. A lot of damage was dealt and a lot of lost lumber time as well. But still, with all that said, it looks like Fanta Fiction has really not stopped training up ghouls and is sitting on a fair amount of lumber. Alright, Archmage needs to retreat here, perhaps drop some water elementals if he wants to turn around and fight. The problem is that the ghouls are such a fast unit that the ghouls can simply outrun that water elemental, and then that water elemental will just end up being stationary. Death Knight now coming around the other side might get a surround on that Death Knight, or sorry, on that Archmage. Archmage now sneaking through, splitting the defenses, and getting a little bit of a lucky break there. That Death Knight knowing that he let one get away from him. Alright, Death Knight now wandering back down here. You can take a look, the ghouls, the sheer amount of ghouls coming through, trying to get a surround onto a footman, and it looks like, yes, one footman will finally be taken down, and there it goes. And now getting up, 108 experience, now moving back over. The water elemental just spraying a little bit of extra damage here, and a lucky switch over by Yumiko, needing only 5 units to get a surround off again. So far, even though Fanta Fiction has gotten a kill, it looks like Yumiko is still one up here, but this may end up being turned around if the Death Knight can steal 2 to 3 kills here while keeping all of his own units alive. Alright, Militia now pushing their way through, trying to fight back. Skeletal minions popping up. Death Knight gaining a little bit of experience, getting a 1 water elemental, getting a death coil off as well, as the Archmage still trying to run around in circles. He does have boots of speed, and that is going to give him a little bit of maneuvering ability, as you can take a look. A quick kill on the item to make sure that the Death Knight doesn't get it. Alright, peasants are now trying to fight back here. It looks like the water elementals are now just splashing down damage as the skeletal minions are trying to interrupt the building of these towers. Alright, water elementals still pushing through damage. Perhaps they should really be going after the ghouls instead. The Death Knight, however, does have plenty of mana still, as more and more skeletal minions are getting taken down. Archmage sitting at level 3. As you can see, the ghoul is going to get pushed all the way back. Death Knight still sitting at level 1. And Fanta Fiction finds himself in a little bit of a bind once more. However, Fanta Fiction did get out of this, or win the last game he was in just like this, by going into double slaughterhouse and meat wagons. That may be the strategy that we're looking at once more, as Yumiko is wandering around with this Archmage. Alright, Arcane Tower, Guard Tower, now being upgraded. Still not enough. Wait, plenty of gold. Not quite sure why these peasants are just hanging around doing nothing. Finally getting the order to work, and this town hall will be up in half the amount of time. Alright, Scroll Town Portal quickly used by the Death Knight after a surround. There it goes, teleporting all the way back home, burning through a 350 gold town portal, but saving that Death Knight, and more importantly, allowing that Death Knight to gain experience still. All right, guard towers, arcane tower is up, and you can see that those ghouls and those skeletal minions do not want to engage. The Death Knight just wants to try and punish his opponent right now, perhaps hit the town hall and make sure that, yes, even though that town hall is going to be up and running, I want to kind of punish you for it by putting yourself out there. By putting that expansion there, you end up allowing your opponent to attack you in a much closer position. And if you have the meat wagons, you can really make it so that that expansion really never truly pays for itself. And what you end up doing, like in game number 1, is just feeding experience to this Death Knight. We can take a look. Slaughterhouse is being summoned. Ultra of Darkness should be summoning up a Lich when the gold is right, as the ghouls are chasing after these units, and looks like all of those water elementals will be able to get away. Now, that is a lot of ghouls, and I'm really curious as to what the strategy of Fanta Fiction is. You can see that, and the sheer number of ghouls here, as we now also see the footmen purposely trying to take down a slaughterhouse as it was being constructed. However, the slaughterhouse in the back is still not going to have any problems, as there goes the water elemental. All right, slaughterhouse, water elemental now pushing forward again. However, there is spirit towers, Nerubian towers, all in position. And Yumiko, even if he does get the cancellation on this slaughterhouse, which it looks like he will, what is the cost of this? As there is a whole bunch of low hit point units that could get taken down. All right, there goes one footman. Are we going to see another footman? Death Knight gets up to level 3, and no, does not finish off that footman there. But that is a lot of death, as a new slaughterhouse was quickly placed down where the previous one was canceled. All right, Yumiko really wants to rely on perhaps getting this arcane vault up, getting the blacksmith, and then getting to those siege engines. We didn't get to see those in the previous game, and I do believe that was the long-term goal of Yumiko. The armor upgrades on the knights were 0-2, and those armor upgrades are also shared by those siege engines, so it makes them incredibly difficult to take out. As you see that the Death Knight does pick up an Ankh of Reincarnation, not necessarily the best item, as even though you do automatically resurrect your Death Knight, the Death Knight is out of action for quite some time, and you still end up giving experience. Tome of Agility +2 went back and picked up. The Death Knight is now sitting at level 3, and could have gotten a Death Coil off on that, could have gotten it off earlier on that footman, and taken him out for level 4, but that is for another time. All right, let's take a look. Death Knight could go shopping. Lich still not out on the field. Do we see an Orb of Corruption? No, we do not. And I am a bit surprised by this. We are going into Destroyer forms and Destroyers. Still no Lich. We are down a Ziggurat. And perhaps that is the problem, as another Spirit Tower being added. All right, it looks like Fanta Fiction is saying, if you're just going to build mass towers, I can do the same exact thing. And the Death Knight, with that Orb of Corruption, quickly takes down a Water Elemental, getting to level 4 on that Death Knight. Back over here, more guard towers are being constructed. Level 1 armor upgrades. Do we see the blacksmith? No blacksmith. Just upgrade the castle. So we are looking at massive number of guard towers here. Now, this is going to be one of those strange situations where if Yumiko gets enough gold, he could lose. He can end up losing everything, his Archmage, his heroes, not gain as much experience, but still end up winning the game with the help of those siege engines, as they are so difficult for undead players to take out. The Spirit Towers here, the Nerubian Towers, none of them do any siege damage, as we're looking at more and more Destroyers being added. Destroyer, there's an Obsidian statue there. Death Knight sitting at level 4. And we still see an Altar of Darkness, not training a Lich. Are we going to even bother with a second hero? That is the big question now. Castle being upgraded, Mountain King being added. And that Mountain King is currently will be sitting at level 1. You can see that the units are quickly making their way over. And there is the Scroll of Town Portal. Are we going to perhaps see some Stormbolts? There's a Stormbolt. And the Death Knight taking an absolute beating already. One guard tower was lost. Ghouls are quickly getting lost here as the Mountain King could get off another Stormbolt there. There it is, but it is still well protected. Devour magic onto the Water Elemental. Skeletal minions getting taken down. But both sides picking off units as the peasants are going back to repair these buildings here. Arcane Sanctums now being added for those Spellbreakers, as the Spellbreakers are very, very key. They are difficult to get focused down, as the Destroyers, the main damage dealers here, are not going to be dealing very much damage to them since they are magic immune, or any damage to them. And the Death Knight doesn't want to get close to those Spellbreakers because of that feedback and the draining of mana. Panda Brewmaster now, or Pandodin Brewmaster now being added as well. That Panda is going to be able to Breath of Fire, but as we're already looking at Arcane Sanctums, are we going to even see any more footmen that are good targets for that Breath of Fire? I don't know if I quite agree with this choice. The Panda is generally a very, very strong hero against the footmen early on, but we haven't seen a very, very heavy footman army. All right, there is that Panda in that front line. There is a reveal there, keeping track of everything. Yes, the guard towers now have Arcane Sentry or Magic Sentry, able to reveal anywhere on the map. Panda sitting at level 2, picking up even a Ring of Regeneration. Extra little bit of regenerating help on that Panda, gonna help him tremendously. Even adding in the Unholy Aura, and that Panda is gonna already have an additional 100% natural regeneration on top of that Ring of Regeneration here. All right, Death Knight purposely keeping his distance to not steal any of that experience. That Panda sitting at level 2, almost at level 3, as it looked like an Acolyte was going to be placing down an expansion here, but for some reason decides against it. Mountain King getting purged. That could be a little bit of bad news, but there was no real way to slow there. Stormbolt, Death Coil, wow, at just the right moment. Breath of Fire across multiple ghouls, but only hitting that one lone footman there. Panda still sitting at level 2, trying to finish off the Null Overseer. Gonna take it down. Level 3 now on that Panda, as this is just Fanta Fiction baiting Yumiko into trying to attack. He knows that he has the stronger position. He knows he has stronger army, but he's just trying to say, you know what, Yumiko, you can try and punish me for doing this, but I don't think so. Let's take a look at the supply count. 61 over 70 compared to 56 over 72, and the army size is much larger than just the supply difference would indicate because of all of the additional extra workers. All right, Panda now taking some extra damage there. You can see Obsidian statues are here. Meat Wagons now joining in on that fight, as this one lone Meat Wagon gonna get taken down pretty fast. All right, the Obsidian statues turning into Destroyers so that they can be healed by the Death Coil. Siege Engines now being added, and those Siege Engines just might be making a straight run for it already. All right, Panda now down to, 800 hit points. Just going to continue to get higher and higher as the Flying Machines are also added as well. All right, Flying Machines making their way over. What is going to be happening here? Knight quickly make its way in. Holy Light to try and take down some more units. And both sides fighting with some interesting units. We see Knights, we see Flying Machines, we see Meat Wagons, Obsidian statues, Panda, and a Death Knight, all of them fighting here as this one Meat Wagon needs to somehow get saved. I don't believe it's going to happen. There it goes down as the Archmage gets taken down as well. Archmage falls at level 3, and that is going to hurt things tremendously, as the Mountain King and Paladin could really use that additional mana right now to try and keep their units alive and healthy while still throwing Stormbolts. All right, 2 Meat Wagons there. Ghouls now being brought over to try and take down the Siege Engines, And I guess this is one of the benefits of having ghouls being your lumber collectors. The ghouls are able to just constantly attack and take down those siege engines and not be attacked by the units. All right, there's a very good surround right there, and the ghouls are just going to finish it off. No extra armor, as you now see some knights joining up on the field. There's one Stormbolt. Level 2 on the Mountain King. Are we going to see a Staff of Sanctuary? No Staff of Sanctuary. Oh, the siege engine able to escape at 30 hit points. Heading back off to the north. Has to be very careful. It could end up getting taken down by the tower, by the Black Citadel here, and it looks like that's going to be the case. Oh, a big loss there, as we now see meat wagons taking down the guard towers off to the north. I believe it is attacking the ground there, so these guard towers are going to end up falling. Coming back around, destroyers now going after the knights. The knights not really benefiting from natural regeneration, as the disease cloud is taking its toll on those units as well. All right, Goblin Shredder making its way over. Death Knight is here. A little bit of splash damage. Panda and Death Knight in position, ready to go. It looks like that guard tower could get taken down with a breath of fire. There it goes, taking down one and almost taking down another 2 more, getting in some more damage still, and now going after the workshops that are trading up those very pesky flying machines and those siege engines. Level 4 now on the Panda. A obvious counter to the flying machines. Now that I think about it, the Panda is the only thing that's really preventing the flying machines from getting into position. Beautiful call by Fanta Fiction, knowing that if he is going to go invest very, very heavily into destroyers, that's exactly what he needs. Panda has the ability to attack air. Death Knight does not, though. Perhaps if he gets an obsidian statue or Orb of Corruption as well, Obsidian Statue, Orb of Corruption, he'll be able to attack and take down a handful of flying machines as they're trying to come in and attack. All right, let's take a look. Panda still in a very good spot. Knights now coming in from the back, and this is just not going to be a good engagement at all, as the flying machines now looking to back off still once more. Fanta Fiction does have some sentry wards here. Knights now doing a little bit of chasing as the destroyers venture forth. Oh, one knight just really running between the gauntlet there. No real reason to be there at all, as the meat wagons are now being pressured to retreat, as the militia now being pushed forth. All right, Death Knight may get to level 6 here. Panda could even get a breath of fire off on all of these poor peasants, and that would turn things, that would just decimate this entire army here as well. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at it. Guard tower taking in a little bit more damage. Reinforcements now getting cut off, as Yumiko taking down a quick ghoul there. Knights are not being upgraded. Goblin Shredder now coming over as well. One flying machine going to take these down, and looks like they're going to get shot down as well. Staff of Sanctuary saves one unit. Holy Light trying to save another knight, as the destroyers are chasing after that knight there. Scroll of Town Portal back to the expansion here at the 3 o'clock position. Meat wagon, or do the flying machines have bombs? Yes, they do, so they can now take down the meat wagons as well. But that also means that perhaps the destroyers are not going to be targeted constantly, since those flying machines can attack land and air. Massive flying machines ready to go. Archmage coming in. All right, Panda getting in an Orb of Corruption attack. We're looking at a big fight here. Archmage dropping in some water elementals. Flying machines trying to go in for the flank. And there you have it. A beautiful, beautiful, massive number of flying machines flanking the position here. Not quite sure where exactly that Panda is. The Panda should have breath of fired this down. Death Knight is underneath here, as the meat wagons are all taken out. All right, Panda, no, is there, no, come on, turn around, breath of fire. Come on, they were all lined up right there. Stormbolt onto the Panda. I think if one breath of fire even went through, that might have been enough. Let's take a look. Staff of Sanctuary is teleporting some units back. Death Knight now trying to push in once more. Breath of fire. There goes 6 flying machines down in an instant, but losing losing a destroyer as well, or look like a destroyer was lost. We're going to turn back around again, as the Death Knight and the Panda are just trying to fight back here. Perhaps we can get another breath of fire. No, not even needed, as the Panda is getting very, very close now to level 5. Breath of fire does not hit the Knight, or if it did, it was negated by the Holy Light just in time, as the Panda really wants to perhaps deal some more damage. 62 over 84 compared to 48 over 80. And it looks like, wait, no Arcane Towers in range. Panda is just going to be in position going after all of these units. He probably wishes he had a Ring of Regeneration right now, as he would be able to negate much of the damage that he's currently absorbing. All right, going after another unit here. It looks like the guard tower could get taken down. Yes, another one taken down here, as the destroyers now all trying to back off once more. Obsidian statues all in position. Absorb mana. Not quite sure what it absorbed right there. No, not off of those obsidian statues. Instead, 4 destroyers are still up, and the Panda is still extremely close. Oh, ends up backing off, and is it gonna saves the destroyer again. Death Knight sitting now at level 6, level 3 Unholy Aura. That is very hot and strong passive regeneration. Panda could get off a Breath of Fire right there. Not quite sure why it isn't gonna do that. Oh, that they were all so clumped up. That would have been a huge, tremendously huge amount of damage. Knight now trying to pull back. If another Knight falls and that Panda gets to level 5 and gets more mana, I think that's pretty much going to be over, as you have to micro those units pretty extensively. All right, let's go ahead. We're going to be pushing through again. There is only one Arcane Tower here, as the Death Knight now trying to roll in. Death Knight now rolls in there. Oh, Panda in a little bit of trouble. Does have a Potion of Invulnerability, though. Is he going to be able to use it? And are we going to see a Breath of Drunken Haze? Are we going to see the Breath of Fire, as all those units are just taking down all of the destroyers, and the destroyer army is pretty much gone in an instant. The Panda was never in the right spot, and that is the problem there. Where's that Breath of Fire now? Trying to take down the rest of those units. All right, Death Coil trying to save more units here. Holy Light, Panda now going up against more units. There's a Staff of Sanctuary saving up another Knight. Breath of Fire goes through, but I think that is going to be it. Archmage, even though he is behind in level, sitting at level 4, it's still too close to call, but I think that the Archmage is going to end up taking this once the heroes are gone. Well, what is this? Destroyers. Where did those destroyers come from? It looked like the destroyers are actually going to come back around. The flying machines, there's only one left. And so there's only one flying machine left. Knights are now falling down. So it looks like Fanta Fiction's going to come back and take this. There's another Breath of Fire. There goes another. Nope, that Knight stays alive. Bolt onto the Panda. And this is still going very crazy. There's the flying machines coming in to finish off more of those destroyers. And I can't even hunt the map to see who is going to win these fights here, as the flying machines is really the difference in this fight. Death Knight now trying to make its way forward again. It looked like another round of units were all taken down. Destroyers getting taken down now, and there's the Stormbolt onto the Panda. Once the Panda is gone, that has got to be the GG. And yes, Fanta Fiction loses game number 3. Yumiko takes it. That was really back and forth up until the very end. You can take a look at the resource score. Yumiko taking the lead there. Level 6 Death Knight, level 5 Panda losing to a level 4 Archmage, level 3 Mountain King, and level 3 Paladin. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed it.